It's a hot and humid day, so I've decided to make a honey cake featuring some of the spices found in Indonesia on the islands in the Banda Sea. The Dutch East India Company in the 17th century made a fortune taking cloves and nutmegs from these islands to Europe. And soon they found their way into Dutch cakes and biscuits. Now I've already buttered a 20cm cake tin and lined it with paper. And over here I have the ingredients for the lightly spiced honey cake. To make this cake you need 250 grams of raw honey, 225 grams of butter, 50 grams of dark brown sugar, 50 grams of demerara sugar. If that's not available, use additional brown sugar instead. 3 large eggs, 300 grams self-raising flour, a teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon ground nutmeg, and 1/8 teaspoon of ground cloves. I've already cut the butter into small pieces and put it into this saucepan along with the honey. And now I'm going to add the sugar. And I'll take this over to the stove. I'm going to heat it on a low heat until all the butter and the honey and the sugar have melted. Okay, this is looking nice and melted now. So I just turn the heat up a little bit. I'm going to put it on to boil for a minute. Okay, that's done. Turn this off. The honey and butter mixture has got to cool before we add the eggs. So now's the time to put in the spices. I put the cinnamon, nutmeg and cloves together in this small bowl, which I'll now stir into the mixture. It's going to take about 15 to 20 minutes to cool, but you have to be patient, otherwise you'll end up with scrambled eggs and honey. So now's a good time to have a cup of tea. The temperature for cooking this cake is slightly less than what you normally use for a cake, so I've set the oven to 150 degrees fan forced. The mixture's cooling down quite nicely. So now's the time to do the flour. I'm going to sift 300 grams of self-raising flour. You sift it well. Okay, that's done. So I'll just put that aside. In this bowl I have the 3 eggs, which I'll now beat lightly. Just checking once again to make sure this is cool enough, because we don't want to cook the eggs. That's good. So we now combine the eggs with the honey and butter and sugar mixture, beating it well. Make sure it's very well mixed before adding it to the flour. I'll now add it to the flour, mixing it well. Again, we want to make sure we don't waste any of this lovely honey. Give this a very good mix, because it's got to end up like a runny batter without any lumps. Go on, just get it nicely mixed together. This is now nicely mixed together, so I'll just scrape it off the spoon. It's good to beat this stuff with a wooden spoon. And then pour it into the cake tin. Making sure we get every last little bit out. Right, that's enough. I'll now put this in the oven. This cake will usually take about 55 to 60 minutes to cook. I will usually check it after about 45 minutes to see if it's not browning too much. And if it does, I'll put a little brown bit of paper like this over the top, just to stop the top of it burning. So in 45 minutes, I'll give it a check and see what it's like. Here's an interesting fact. Each worker bee only produces about half a teaspoon of honey during its life. So just imagine the lives of how many bees went into making this jar of honey. I checked the cake after 45 minutes and it was just starting to brown a little bit too much on the top, so I laid the piece of brown paper loosely over the top of it. It should take about another 10 or 15 minutes to cook, and then I'll go and test it in the usual way. By just gently pressing in the centre and sticking a skewer into it and making sure it comes out clean. Then it should be fine. A simple lemon icing spread roughly across the top, as Janet has done with this one, makes for a nice contrast. I've already cut a couple of slices out so you can see what it looks inside.
It's quite a dry cake. It keeps pretty well, and I think the blend of honey and spices is very nice.
Thanks for watching, and I hope you give the lightly spiced honey cake a go. Let's try some. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe. And you can comment and leave any honey recipe suggestions in the comment section below.
It's nice.